All right, with us now to talk more about this and much more is Congressman Brian Mast. He represents the 18th Congressional District in Florida, which, for the sake of full disclosure, is my current congressional district. He is my congressman. So I just want to say I do support Congressman Mast, but as a constituent congressman, that does mean I get to hold you accountable as well. So let's do that right now. Good to see you.
Good to see you also.
So, President Trump today, we heard him a few moments ago saying that both China and Ukraine should look into the business dealings of Joseph Biden and his son, Hunter Biden. Basically, this is what Democrats are accusing the president of doing. This is what they say is the impeachable offense. You have the president leaning on foreign leaders to investigate a political rival. What's your reaction to what the president said today?
My reaction is that unfortunately you see a Democrat Party that's more upset about the president going out there and investigating corruption than anything else. They're just simply upset that that's what he's doing. He shouldn't investigate corruption if it exists on the Democrat side, and that's unfortunate to see. And personal opinion on this, and I say this seriously. For my years that I've been in Congress here, this is the most irresponsible thing that I've seen done in the U.S. House of Representatives. The Speaker of the House going out there and pressuring all of the members of the majority party to support an inquiry into impeachment prior to any of them ever having knowledge, except for maybe Mr. Schiff, who we now know, had contact with the whistleblower ahead of time. But any of those other members having any knowledge about what was the content of any phone call or any conversation and pushing for an impeachment inquiry, it is hands down the most irresponsible action that I've seen. And I think Speaker Pelosi should be removed as Speaker of the House.
Wow. Okay, so you say she should be removed. And, I think it is fair to say that, the fact that, number one, she hasn't called a vote on this yet proves to us that this is a purely political process. She's not interested in the constitutional aspect of impeachment. The other thing, too, is what you mentioned. I think Adam Schiff, he is compromised now as a result of this. Other people have called for him to be removed. The House Minority Leader, Kevin McCarthy, says he should be censured. I imagine you're on that boat as well.
I am on board. Now, this is something that you see playing out, literally before our eyes. But when you look at what's gone on with this process and you say, is it totally partisan? What's going on in this? I reference what happened to me last week. I was sitting on a hearing for the Foreign Affairs Committee on Wednesday morning. And on Tuesday, that was when everybody made their announcement that they want to see on the Democrat side this inquiry into impeachment. I'm sitting on that Foreign Affairs Committee hearing on Wednesday morning when the actual transcript of that Ukrainian phone call came out, and the transcript of it was handled to all of the Democrat members of that committee. And I'm sitting there in committee watching all of these members thumb through the actual transcript, reading it for the very first time, even though they had all already got on record saying that this is something that they support and they think there should be an impeachment inquiry. Again, just a very sad situation to see that going on.
Now, that said, a lot of Republicans say the transcript exonerates the president and it should be used as the document to prove that he did nothing wrong. At the same time, though, we're learning more and more about what's been excluded from that document itself, including the fact that the Secretary of State was on the call. He admitted to that yesterday. Do you think that undermines some of the credibility of that argument that the transcript is enough to exonerate the president in this?
No, I don't think it undermines that argument at all. You're seeing things constantly play out. This was a conversation that was between two presidents going out there speaking. It was a congratulatory conversation. I think the words of the transcript speak very clearly that there wasn't this quid pro quo to say, do something here and something else will be done for you. That didn't exist. It just simply didn't happen. And somebody reading that into it is reading what they want to read into it. And that's not the facts of the situation.
Now, let's take a step back from this for just a minute. As I mentioned, you and I live in the same neighborhood, more or less. You've been back in the district now for a while since you guys have, I don't call it a recess. I know you guys are on a work period outside of Washington, D.C., doing a lot of work. But when you've met with your constituents, when you've been at the grocery store, has anybody come up to you, one person asked you about impeachment?
I get a lot of people that when they see me, and I'm always at the grocery store, I think my wife thinks it's a joke to send me out to Publix groceries because she knows it's going to, even if I have to get one or two things, it's going to take me an hour to do it because conversations that I'll have there. And, so in that, walking through those aisles, I have a lot of people that, they'll look at me and they'll shake their head and just give me a comment about they can't believe what is going on in Washington. And, so in that, they're surprised. But I don't have people that are wanting to have lengthy conversations and really say, well, what about the facts of this, or what's going on with this piece of it? Just hasn't been a conversation that's really been playing out on the streets.
What do they ask you about?
Locally here, the big thing that I'm always asked about, what's going on with our waterways here, in the waterways with Lake Okeechobee, our coastal estuaries, what's happened with that VA hospital? Why is it that the VA wants to kick you and other members of Congress out of the hospital? And those are the big conversations that I end up having people ask about.
Congressman, earlier in the show, we were talking about the impeachment stuff. I just wanted to ask you, you say you don't hear anybody basically ask you about this in your district there in Florida, which I should say and emphasize is a still very competitive district, one of the few in the country. You face a lot of pressure from the Democrats, and they pour a lot of money into that district every 2 years. But what do the people of the 18th District of Florida talk to you about? What is important to them, and what do they care the most about right now?
I think the two biggest things that people care about in my region, in my district, is what goes on with their waterways in this area, what's going on with their veterans, making sure that they wake up every single day under these 50 stars and 13 red and white stripes with the absolute most opportunity that this country can provide. And that's what they want to see out of Washington. Washington not getting in the way, but making sure that they do the one thing that we can provide. That's opportunity. That doesn't mean we guarantee results, doesn't mean we guarantee the outcomes of somebody's life. It means that we make sure that when somebody wakes up, they can reach for the stars and decide that that's going to be a better day than yesterday.
Well, let's talk a little bit more specifically about the West Palm Beach Veterans Affairs Hospital there. I know this very well. I know a lot of people who go there, and they tell me, a lot of horrible stories about the problems that are there. And because of that, you decided to set up shop and have your own office on that facility. But tell me what's happened to that now.
Look, I always try to be very fair with the VA and say this, that the biggest stack of work that I get into my offices are issues dealing with the VA. But there's two stacks, and one stack is people that have issues and problems that need to be dealt with, and the other stack, almost of equal size, is people that want to let us know that they had some outstanding care there, the right thing happened for their uncle or their, somebody in their family tree or something to that nature. So I got to be fair. I do get both sides of it, and I'm proud to hear that there's good things, and I want to light a fire under anything bad that's going on in the VA. But what happened with the VA, right? I said, listen, if you want to understand a problem with anything, you got to be present for it. You got to be around and look at it and see it with your own eyes. And so I said to the VA, I said, why don't you let us hold office hours inside the VA? We can provide better service to our veterans. We can provide better oversight to the Department of Veterans Affairs because we're going to see what's going on there on a daily basis. And all in all, our veterans will be served in a better way. We've been doing that for the last couple of years. We've had over 500 meetings inside of that VA hospital. Just me as my office alone. That doesn't count the other members of Congress that are not doing that. We've opened up hundreds of pieces of constituent casework. That's casework where veterans literally need help dealing with somebody. Just today, I was awarding medals to a Korean War veteran who needed help filling out the paperwork for it. He couldn't get the help inside of the VA hospital. He came into my office.
And that's really it. That's what I hear. And you're so right, because when I talk to these veterans who use this hospital, they say once you get past the wall of all the bureaucracy and the hoops you have to jump through, the doctors and nurses are actually quite good at these hospitals. But what you talked about is the problem. They lose their paperwork. They start down the process of filing this form, but then it gets lost because of some administrative snafu. And that's the stuff that you were really working so hard on. The only kind of thing you can do when you're there, basically embedded and seeing what's happening at the VA.
And that's it. We try to pick up wherever there's a failure and make sure that if that failure needs to be brought to a higher level, we make sure it's brought to a higher level. We do whatever we can to be another layer of service to our veterans, and it's done nothing but be positive for every single one of our veterans and for all of the other members of Congress that have been doing that as well. It's unfortunate that we got this letter from the VA saying, listen, we want to have all of you members of Congress vacate those offices by January 1.
Yeah, I know it's, of course, terrible for you. Nobody should be doing it. But this week, the VA, they announced that they're going to eliminate smoking on all their campuses. But is that really the type of priority that they should be focused on right now?
I mean, that's health. VA health. I'm a supporter of that personally.
Right, I agree with the policy, right? But this is their big announcement this week. We don't hear a lot of news about the VA, unfortunately, but it's important that we keep, at least a little bit of a microscope on what happens there.
That's exactly it. And that's what this is about. Look, I think the VA should be begging for 435 members of Congress and 100 senators to all start showing up to the VA hospitals once a week or once a month so that they can see what's going on there. And if they do that, you're going to have a better VA in the end. That's the fact of the matter.
Yeah, and that's the least we can do, right, is have at least decent medical care for our veterans. Congressman Mast, it's always great to see you. Look forward to talking to you again real soon.
You too. Take care.
You just watched Newsmax TV, America's fastest growing news channel. Newsmax TV is now available for free on your smartphone. Just go to your iPhone or Android store and download the free Newsmax TV app. Then you can watch free TV news with an American spin anytime, anywhere in the world. Newsmax TV, real news for real people.